Thanks very much, Bruce, and gosh, can I just say, now that I'm up where you are, seeing this sea of faces is absolutely extraordinary. For someone like me who has to talk for the next few minutes, I don't need anything else other than your beaming faces. Can I firstly commend the organisers for this extraordinary conference. I've seen the agenda starting yesterday, proceeding on. There's a huge amount of work that's gone into this, and the logistics, the organisation, it's extraordinary. And I do commend Bruce, everybody else that's been involved in this. I have the most enormous delight in kicking off today's session. And as Bruce has so eloquently put it, the theme is all about the campaign. The theme is all about the campaign. And interestingly, I've actually just come straight down from one end of the city down to here from Parliament House. I was addressing a relatively large group of parliamentarians and other guests this morning. Quite an important day for the state parliament here because it's budget day. Budget speech will be given later on today by a new treasurer. And what I was trying to say to a group of very busy people, because parliamentarians typically are, was how nevertheless important it is that they somehow carve some time out of their busy schedules to be involved in the non-for-profit sector, in the community sector, and not to receive all of their information about the needs of the community, needs of society through various filters and ministerial briefings and bits of paper and what have you, but to see it for themselves. And I'm not in any way critical of politicians. They have a job that I can't and don't wish to do. They do it, and virtually all of them are very well motivated, but it's a tough gig to have. And as we embark on this campaign today, it is important, all 1,000 of us in this room, to understand that ultimately the decisions will be made on these issues by politicians, and it's important for us to use every wit in our brain to work out what motivates them, what works for them, what inspires them, what doesn't work. And this morning I was, as I was developing my message with them, to encourage them to go to the coalface, to get their fingers dirty a little bit. I was saying, but you know, for goodness sake, do it for the right reasons. Don't do it out of any noble pursuit or a sense of guilt or whatever. Do it because the cause is right for us. And for me, the disability sector has been right for my entire lifetime, having an older sister who has an intellectual disability. It's right for me. It's no labour of any great difficulty. It's something I just want to do. And I made this point this morning. And I also said to the politicians, and for goodness sake, have a bit of fun. Have a bit of fun as well. This morning, we're going to have a bit of fun in kicking off this campaign because most of you are hopefully either sitting on or have on your laps this sign here. I count. Count me in. Now, in a moment, in fact, right now, why don't we? I want to work out where you all come from. Now, I'm going to start with the most populous state. May not be the most well attended here today because of Victoria, but if you're from New South Wales, can you hold them up? And this is your opportunity. If you haven't got one, you've got to get one because at the end of my speech, we're all going to hold them up together. Now, great to see you, New South Welshmen. Now I want to go right over to the west. Do we have anyone from Western Australia? There they go, they're all spread out. Yay, now, yeah, give yourselves a... Now, what about South Australia? I love South Australia. I love when my footy team that's based here beats South Australian footy teams. It's terrific. Now, who's from Queensland? Good, good. Now, Tasmania, you're very important. That's good, yep. Now, we have some territories as well. What about the ACT? Yay! Yay! Oh, that's good. They've got a voice. They've always got a voice up there. Now, is there anyone from the Northern Territory? Yes! Wonderful. Great. Now, who have I left out? Oh, Victoria. Yeah, but Victoria. Now, is there anyone else that feels left out? No, that's not too bad. That's good. No one from Norfolk Island? Sorry, yes. From?
Torres Strait Island.
Torres, wonderful, terrific, yeah. How good is that? Now, in a few moments I'm going to ask us all in unison collectively, putting our state prejudices and what have you to one side, to put them all up collectively, and there'll be all sorts of photos and television cameras and what have you taking some images of that. That's in a few minutes. I'm so glad that I've been hearing this morning as I've been walking in the strong presence of the Productivity Commission yesterday. How do I say this? I'm not sure if anyone from the Productivity Commission is here today, and I apologise in advance if I'm going to say things that are somewhat disrespectful. But the Productivity Commission has been an organisation that has been around for a long time. It has a relatively low profile most of the time, except when it's doing some work in a sector that's close to us, and that has been the case for the last year or so. Everyone in this room would be aware of what the Productivity Commission is today. It performs some very valuable work for the nation. It is given tasks to do, typically by the federal government, to investigate what is in the nation's interests in relation to reforming a particular sector or pursuing some initiative. And I have to say that as a sector, we have been very well served by the Productivity Commission's report, and I've got half of it here. Well served because the Productivity Commission has done a huge amount of work. We've also been well served by the likes of Bruce and many others who have been so actively engaging with them and giving them the information and the data that's so important. But we have been well served because, you know, it would have been, I think, easy and indeed possible for the Productivity Commission to have said, you know, we have so many challenges in Australia that it's just not the right time to think about a whole-scale revolution of our disability sector. But I salute them because they've actually had the courage to say that it is in the national interest to reform the sector. Now, I'm sure that many of you know what the principal measures are, and I'm not going to go through them in any detail. But obviously we're talking about a scheme that no longer is overly concerned about how one's disability arose in the first place. It's targeting more than 360,000 Australians who would receive funding. The needs of those people would be assessed fairly, albeit rigorously. There's a great focus on ensuring that it's neither too tough or too lenient. It would be overseen by a federal agency. As we've come to expect here in Victoria, but perhaps not so commonplace elsewhere, there will be a huge emphasis on choice. Can choose their own disability service providers, ask a disability support organisation to organise a package. It will be, in many respects, a completely different system. But ultimately, and this is one of the big issues why we need to really organise ourselves well with a campaign, is that there is a cost. And the cost is actually coming at a time, and those of you who come from Canberra will understand this very well, where there has been, I won't say unprecedented, but there's extraordinary pressure on the federal budget at this point in time. Indeed, there's extraordinary pressures on a number of state budgets as well. You know, there's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is argue our case as strongly as we possibly can, armed with a document that we've never had before, armed with a document that's prepared by a body, part of the federal government, which strongly states the case that we can do better in the area of disability. But the numbers are large. Collectively at the moment, state and federal governments inject around 6.2, 6.3 billion into the disability sector. The Commission is saying we actually need to double that to do the right thing for people with a disability. But most importantly, it's saying this is not just because that's what's going to cost. The Productivity Commission is saying that extra investment in today's dollars of $6.3 billion is actually money well spent. It's a good investment for this nation. And that's, I would argue, where we start our campaign. It's a good investment for the nation.